Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the observation deck of the lunar mining station and watched Earth rotate slowly below her. The blue marble looked peaceful from this distance, but Lisa knew that peace would not last much longer. The radio chatter from Earth had been growing more urgent over the past few days. Strange energy readings in deep space were moving toward the solar system, and moving fast. Lisa had been a military pilot for 15 years. Before taking this job, she flew combat missions over the Asian Continental War and survived 3 separate alien first contact scenarios that turned out to be false alarms. But something about these readings felt different. The energy signatures were too organized, too purposeful to be natural phenomena. Down on Earth, Dr. Amy Brooks sat in her laboratory at the Xenobiology Research Center in Denver. She had spent the last decade studying the possibility of alien life and preparing protocols for first contact. The readings her team detected 3 days ago made her stomach turn with excitement and fear. The patterns suggested advanced technology far beyond human capability. Amy had always believed humanity would eventually meet alien life. She just hoped they would be friendly. The energy signatures approaching Earth showed massive objects moving at incredible speeds, using propulsion systems that defied human understanding of physics. Amy tried to remain optimistic, but every calculation pointed to the same conclusion: these were not explorers or traders, these were conquerors. Maya Johnson was 17 years old and spent most of her time in her bedroom, surrounded by computer screens and radio equipment. She lived with her grandmother in Detroit and had been tracking unusual radio signals for the past month. Maya was gifted with electronics and had built her own radio array to listen to deep space transmissions. What she heard 3 days ago made her hands shake. The signals were not random noise or natural stellar phenomena. They were organized communications, using mathematical principles that suggested intelligence. Maya had tried to contact government agencies, but nobody would listen to a teenager from Detroit. Now the signals were getting stronger, and she could detect movement patterns that terrified her. Something big was coming to Earth, and it was not coming alone. The first ships appeared exactly 72 hours after Maya detected the initial transmissions. Silver vessels the size of Manhattan Islands materialized in Earth orbit without warning. Their hulls gleamed like mirrors and reflected sunlight in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. The ships moved with impossible grace for objects so massive, and they took positions over every major population center on Earth. Empress Valeth stood in the command center of her flagship and studied the primitive planet below. Her crystalline blue skin shimmered in the soft lighting of the bridge, and her silver hair flowed like liquid. Mercury, her species, had conquered 47 worlds over the past 3 centuries, and Earth would be number 48. The inhabitants looked promising, strong enough for manual labor, but clearly too primitive to pose any real threat. Commander Shara approached the Empress with a tactical report. The 4-armed alien woman moved with predatory grace, and her bioluminescent markings pulsed with satisfaction. The initial scans showed that Earth humans had barely achieved basic space travel, and their weapons technology was laughably primitive. The conquest would be simple and quick. The attack began at exactly noon Greenwich Mean Time. Plasma beams lanced down from the alien ships and struck military bases around the world. The weapons carved through concrete and steel, like hot knives through butter. Earth military responded with missiles and fighter jets, but the alien energy shields absorbed the attacks without even flickering. Martinez watched in horror from the lunar station. As explosions bloomed across Earth continents, the alien plasma weapons were surgical in their precision, targeting only military installations and leaving civilian areas untouched for now. But Lisa knew this restraint would not last. The aliens were simply eliminating organized resistance before moving to the next phase. Pentagon command centers disappeared in columns of superheated air. Naval fleets vanished beneath the waves as alien weapons boiled the ocean around them. Fighter squadrons launched desperate attacks, only to watch their missiles explode harmlessly against invisible barriers. The most advanced weapons humanity possessed were useless against technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Amy Brooks evacuated her laboratory as alien ships moved over Denver. The energy readings she detected were now reality, and that reality was terrifying. The aliens demonstrated power beyond human comprehension. Their ships floated silently above cities like metallic gods, and their weapons could reach anywhere on the planet in seconds. Amy grabbed her research data and fled toward the mountains. Maya Johnson packed her radio equipment into a backpack and followed her grandmother to the emergency shelter. The teenager had predicted this invasion, but nobody had listened. Now Detroit burned under alien fire, and Maya wondered if her technical skills could somehow help humanity survive what was coming. She had intercepted alien communications before. Maybe she could do it again. The first day of invasion ended with Earth military forces in complete collapse. Every major base was destroyed, every fleet was sunk, and every air force was grounded. The aliens had demonstrated overwhelming superiority without even landing ground troops. World governments tried to negotiate, but the aliens ignored all communication attempts. They had not come to talk, they had come to conquer. Empress Valeth reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. The human resistance had lasted exactly 14 hours and 23 minutes, which was actually longer than most species managed. The humans showed admirable courage, but courage without adequate technology was simply elaborate suicide. Their primitive nuclear weapons remained unused, which showed they possessed some wisdom. The Empress decided to allow human governments to surrender formally before beginning the occupation phase. Humans appeared to be intelligent enough for complex labor tasks, and their planet contained valuable mineral resources. The Zephyrian Empire would strip mine the useful materials and relocate the surviving humans to labor colonies. The process was efficient and had worked perfectly on dozens of other worlds. Lisa Martinez made a difficult decision. She would not surrender. She would not accept occupation. She gathered the other humans on the lunar station and began planning resistance operations. The moonbase had manufacturing facilities and raw materials. They could build weapons and coordinate with any survivors on Earth. The war was not over. It had barely begun. Mee Brooks reached the Rocky Mountain research facility and began analyzing captured alien technology fragments. The weapons debris showed impossible material properties, but Amy was determined to understand how they worked. If humans were going to survive, they needed to learn alien technology fast. Human creativity and adaptability were their only advantages against superior force. Maya Johnson established radio contact with resistance groups forming across North America. Her technical skills made her invaluable for coordinating between scattered survivor communities. The aliens had won the first battle, but Maya believed humans could still win the war. Human history was full of seemingly impossible victories against superior enemies. The invasion was complete, but the occupation was just beginning. Empress Valeth prepared to land ground forces and establish permanent control over Earth. The humans would learn to accept their new place in the galactic order, or they would be eliminated. The choice was theirs, but either way, the Zephyrian Empire always got what it wanted. Earth burned under alien skies, but humanity still breathed, and where humans breathed, hope remained alive. 3 months had passed since the silver ships first appeared in Earth's skies, and the world Lisa Martinez once knew was gone. The aliens had transformed major cities into administrative centers, while forcing humans into massive labor camps. Captain Martinez now lived in a hidden cave system deep in the Rocky Mountains, leading a group of survivors who refused to accept defeat. The Zephyrian occupation was methodical and ruthless. Empress Valeth had established her palace in the ruins of Manhattan, where twisted metal and alien architecture created a monument to human defeat. The crystalline spires of her residence reached toward the sky like frozen lightning, while human workers labored in the shadows below, building monuments to their own. Subjugation Commander Shara oversaw mining operations in Colorado, where massive excavation sites carved wounds into the mountain landscape. Human prisoners worked 18-hour shifts, extracting rare earth elements that the aliens needed for their war machine. The four-armed commander moved through the camps with casual indifference, treating Human suffering like a minor administrative detailed Amy Brooks had managed to avoid capture by hiding in an abandoned research facility high in the mountains. She spent her days studying fragments of alien technology that resistance fighters brought her. The materials showed properties that seemed impossible under human physics, but Amy was determined to understand how they worked. Understanding meant survival, and survival meant hope. Maya Johnson had become the voice of the human resistance. Her radio broadcasts reached survivor communities across North America, and her technical skills allowed different groups to coordinate their activities. The 17-year-old had matured quickly under the pressure of occupation, learning to think strategically while maintaining the hope that kept resistance fighters going. General Tysa was the third member of the alien command structure, a serpentine being with powerful psychic abilities. She managed human resources across the Americas. Her species could read surface thoughts and project mental commands, which made human resistance much more difficult. She considered humans to be clever animals, useful for labor, but incapable of real intelligence. The labor camps were designed for maximum efficiency rather than human comfort. Prisoners received basic food and shelter in exchange for backbreaking work in mines, factories, and construction sites. The aliens had studied human psychology and knew exactly how much pressure to apply before their workforce collapsed completely. They needed workers, not corpses. Lisa Martinez led raids against alien supply convoys using hit-and-run tactics that the enemy found increasingly annoying. Her fighters struck fast and disappeared into terrain that the aliens found difficult to navigate. The mountains provided natural cover, and the resistance had learned to move without using electronic equipment that alien sensors could detect. Amy Brooks made her first major breakthrough while examining a damaged alien weapon. The plasma rifle contained a power cell that generated energy through dimensional manipulation rather than storing power. In conventional batteries, the aliens tapped directly into parallel dimensions for unlimited energy. The discovery was terrifying and potentially revolutionary. Maya Johnson intercepted alien communications that revealed disturbing information about Zephyrian expansion plans. Earth was just one target in a massive campaign to conquer and strip mine dozens of worlds simultaneously. The Empire moved like a plague of locusts, consuming resources and moving on to the next target. Their efficiency was built on thousands of years of practice. The aliens treated human resistance as pest control rather than actual warfare. They deployed hunter-killer squads to eliminate resistance cells, but never committed serious military resources to the task. The Zephyrians had fought real wars against advanced civilizations, and humans simply did not qualify as a genuine threat. Their technology was too primitive, and their numbers too small. Commander Shara received reports about increasing resistance activity but dismissed them as minor security issues. Humans were showing more persistence than most conquered species, but their primitive weapons could barely scratch alien armor. Their determination was admirable, but ultimately meaningless against superior technology. An organization. Lisa Martinez lost 12 fighters in a failed attack on an alien transport. The enemy response was swift and brutal, but also revealed important tactical information. The aliens relied heavily on their energy shields and seemed confused when faced with multiple simultaneous attacks. Their tactical thinking was rigid and followed predictable patterns. Amy Brooks discovered something remarkable about alien psychology through intercepted communications. The Zephyrians had conquered so many primitive worlds that they had developed a form of cultural blindness. They literally could not imagine being defeated by less advanced species. Their own success had become a weakness. Maya Johnson established contact with resistance groups in Europe and Asia, creating a global network of survivors. The aliens monitored most electronic communications, but Maya had developed techniques for hiding messages inside seemingly random radio static. Her broadcasts carried coded information that helped coordinate resistance activities worldwide. General TSA attempted to use her psychic abilities to control key resistance leaders, but discovered that human minds were more chaotic than expected. Most species had organized thought patterns that could be easily influenced, but humans generated constant mental noise that interfered with psychic manipulation. The discovery was frustrating and slightly disturbing. The Zephyrian Empire had a standard occupation protocol that had worked perfectly on 47 previous worlds. They established administrative control, eliminated organized resistance, and began resource extraction while the native population adapted to their new reality. The process typically took 6 months for complete pacification. Earth was not following the expected pattern. Human resistance was growing stronger rather than weaker, and their tactics were becoming more sophisticated. The aliens attributed this to primitive stubbornness rather than genuine strategic thinking, but some commanders were beginning to feel concerned about the unusual persistence. Lisa Martinez received intelligence from Maya Johnson about alien mining operations in South America. The resistance could coordinate simultaneous attacks across multiple continents if they could establish better communication systems. The global nature of human resistance was something the aliens had not encountered before. Amy Brooks made another discovery while studying alien communications equipment. The dimensional technology that powered their weapons also created vulnerabilities. Specific electromagnetic frequencies could disrupt the dimensional links, causing catastrophic feedback in their power systems. The information was theoretical, but potentially devastating. Maya Johnson decoded alien transmissions that revealed timeline information about the occupation. Earth was scheduled for complete resource extraction within 1 year, after which the surviving human population would be relocated to labor colonies in other star systems. The aliens planned to strip mine the planet core and move on. Commander Shara received updated orders from the Empress to accelerate mining operations. The Empire had identified other target worlds that required attention, and Earth needed to be fully processed ahead of schedule. The increased pressure would mean higher human casualties, but that was acceptable for maintaining operational efficiency. The resistance fighters adapted to their new reality by learning from every encounter with alien forces. They studied enemy movement patterns, weapon capabilities, and tactical responses. Human creativity began to compensate for technological disadvantage as fighters developed new strategies specifically designed to exploit alien weaknesses. General Tysa reported increasing difficulty in maintaining human compliance through psychic manipulation. The species showed unusual mental resilience, and their thoughts became more chaotic under stress, rather than more organized. The psychological profile of humans was unlike anything in Zephyrian records. Lisa Martinez planned the most ambitious resistance operation yet attempted. She would coordinate attacks on alien facilities across North America, while Amy Brooks prepared to field test her theoretical weapons based on electromagnetic frequency disruption. The resistance was ready to escalate from harassment to actual warfare. The occupation was entering a new phase as human resistance evolved from desperate survival to organized rebellion. The aliens still possessed overwhelming advantages, but their psychology made them vulnerable to tactics they had never encountered before. The war for Earth was about to become much more interesting. 6 months after the invasion, Amy Brooks made the discovery that would change everything. She was deep in her mountain laboratory studying fragments from a damaged Leon scout ship when she found the quantum resonance chamber. The device was unlike anything in human technology, but Amy had begun to understand how alien systems worked. The chamber contained crystalline matrices that created stable dimensional rifts, allowing the aliens to tap directly into parallel realities for unlimited energy. Amy realized that the entire Zephyrian Empire was built on this technology. Their ships, weapons, and manufacturing systems all depended on controlled tiers in the fabric of space and time itself. Kate Sullivan arrived at the Mountain Facility 3 days later. The former NASA engineer had escaped from a labor camp and brought detailed observations about alien mining equipment. Kate had spent her career working with experimental propulsion systems, and she immediately understood the implications of Amy's discovery. The dimensional technology was incredibly powerful, but also incredibly unstable. Lisa Martinez received Amy's report through Maya Johnson's communication network. The implications were staggering. The aliens were not just using advanced technology. They were literally rewriting the laws of physics in localized areas around their equipment. If humans could find a way to disrupt those dimensional rifts, they could turn alien technology against itself. Maya Johnson had been monitoring alien communications for months and noticed patterns that supported Amy's theoretical work. Whenever alien equipment malfunctioned, the failures seemed to cascade through their entire local network rather than remaining isolated. This suggested that all their systems were connected through dimensional links that could potentially be exploited. Commander Shara was dealing with increasing equipment failures in the Colorado mining operations. The malfunctions seemed random, but were becoming more frequent. Her technicians blamed the failures on Earth's unusual electromagnetic environment, but could not identify specific causes. The problems were annoying but not yet serious enough to warrant major concern. Brooks worked frantically to understand the mathematical principles behind dimensional manipulation. The alien technology operated on quantum mechanics that human science had only theorized about, but the basic concepts were comprehensible. Human mathematics was primitive, but not entirely wrong, just incomplete. Kate Sullivan began designing human devices that could generate quantum interference patterns based on Amy's research. The equipment would be crude compared to alien technology, but humans had advantages in creativity and improvisation that might compensate for technological limitations. They needed to build weapons that could exploit dimensional vulnerabilities. General Tysa detected unusual thought patterns in human prisoners near the Colorado mining sites. The subjects showed signs of coordination and planning that extended beyond their immediate environment. Her psychic abilities could not penetrate the strange mental static that humans generated, but she could sense growing determination, and purposely saw Martinez captured an intact alien scout ship during a raid on a supply convoy. The vessel was damaged, but functional, and contained a treasure trove of technical information. Maya Johnson helped decode the navigation systems, while Amy Brooks studied the propulsion mechanisms. The data revealed something shocking about Zephyrian expansion. The scout ship's logs contained records of dozens of conquered worlds, and the pattern was always the same. The aliens identified primitive civilizations, conquered them quickly, and stripped their planets of useful resources before moving on to the next target. Earth was just another entry in a vast catalog of destroyed worlds. Maya Johnson discovered that the Empire was fighting wars on multiple fronts. Simultaneously, they had enemies among more advanced civilizations, and were using conquered worlds like Earth to fuel their military machine. Human suffering was just a byproduct of galactic politics that humans knew nothing about. The scope was overwhelming. Amy Brooks found technical specifications for dimensional rift generators in the captured data. The systems were more complex than she had imagined, but the basic principles were understandable. The aliens created controlled tiers in space-time and used the energy differential to power their technology. But the process required precise mathematical calculations to maintain stability. Kate Sullivan realized that humans could not build dimensional generators with current technology, but they might be able to build dimensional disruptors. Simple devices that generated quantum interference patterns could potentially destabilize existing rifts. The effect would be unpredictable and probably dangerous, but it might be their only chance. Commander Shara received orders to accelerate Earth's resource extraction. The Empire needed materials for military operations in the Andromeda sector, and Earth was behind schedule. Equipment failures and human resistance had slowed mining operations below acceptable levels. The timeline was now 8 months instead of the original 12. General Tysa attempted to probe human prisoners for information about resistance activities, but found their minds increasingly chaotic and difficult to read. The psychic interference was unlike anything she had encountered in previous conquests. Human consciousness seemed to generate some form of natural mental shielding, Lisa Martinez coordinated with resistance cells worldwide to gather information about alien installations. Maya Johnson had identified dimensional rift generators at every major alien facility, and Amy Brooks believed they could all be disrupted simultaneously if they could coordinate the attack precisely. The plan was ambitious and extremely dangerous, Sami Brooks made another crucial discovery while studying alien power distribution networks. All of their dimensional rifts were connected through quantum entanglement, which meant that destabilizing one generator could potentially cascade through their entire network. The effect would be like pulling a thread that unravels the entire fabric. Kate Sullivan completed the first prototype quantum disruptor using parts from the captured scout ship and human electronic components. The device was primitive and unreliable, but it generated the correct interference patterns. Amy's calculations suggested that multiple disruptors operating simultaneously could create resonance effects that would amplify the disruption. Maya Johnson intercepted communications between Empress Valeth and Zephyrian High Command, revealing that Earth was becoming a problem. The unusual persistence of human resistance was delaying operations, and other conquered species were beginning to show signs of rebellion, influenced by human example. The Empire was concerned about President General Tysa reported increasing difficulty in managing human populations through psychic influence. The subjects were developing mental techniques that blocked her abilities, and their resistance was spreading. Through psychological rather than technological means, human determination was proving to be contagious in ways the aliens had not anticipated. Lisa Martinez received the final pieces of intelligence needed for the coordinated attack. Amy Brooks had identified the optimal frequencies for quantum disruption. Kate Sullivan had built enough devices for worldwide deployment, and Maya Johnson had established secure communication networks to coordinate the timing. The plan was simple in concept but terrifyingly complex in execution. Resistance cells would simultaneously attack dimensional rift generators at alien facilities around the world using quantum disruptors. The goal was to create cascading failures that would destabilize the entire network of alien technology on Earth. Amy Brooks ran final calculations on the potential consequences. The quantum disruption could free Earth from alien occupation, but the process might also tear holes in space-time that could not be repaired. The dimensional rifts could spiral out of control and destroy not just the alien technology, but potentially the planet itself. Kate Sullivan finished building the quantum disruptors knowing that they were essentially experimental weapons with unpredictable effects. The devices might save humanity, or they might trigger a catastrophe that would make alien occupation seem pleasant by comparison, but doing nothing meant certain extinction. Lisa Martinez made the decision that would determine humanity's fate. She authorized the global attack, knowing that success might save Earth, while failure would destroy it. The resistance had learned that sometimes the only way to win was to risk everything on a single, desperate gamble. The discovery phase was complete, and the resistance had the knowledge and tools they needed. Now came the most dangerous part of the plan, actually using those tools and hoping that human ingenuity could overcome alien technology without destroying the world in the process. The next phase would test whether humanity deserved to survive. 8 months after the invasion, Lisa Martinez stood on a mountaintop watching the sun rise over what might be humanity's last day. The quantum disruptors were in position at resistance cells worldwide, and the coordinated attack would begin at exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time. Amy Brooks had warned that the consequences would be unpredictable, but doing nothing meant certain extinction. Maya Johnson sat in her hidden radio station coordinating final communications between resistance groups. Across 6 continents, the 17-year-old had become the nervous system of human rebellion, and now she would guide the most desperate gamble in human history. Her fingers trembled as she prepared to send the signal that would either free Earth or destroy. Amy Brooks made final adjustments to the quantum disruptor in the Colorado mountains. The device looked like a collection of salvaged electronics, held together with wire and hope, but the mathematics behind its design were sound. The electromagnetic frequencies it generated would interfere with dimensional rift stability in ways that alien technology could not compensate. Kate Sullivan checked the timer on her disruptor device and tried not to think about all the ways the plan could fail catastrophically. The quantum interference might destabilize dimensional rifts, but it could also tear holes in reality that would consume the planet. Human desperation had led them to weaponize physics itself. Commander Shara was inspecting mining operations when the first disruptor activated. The device generated a harmonic frequency that resonated through the dimensional rift, powering the excavation equipment. The crystalline matrices that maintained stable energy flow began vibrating in patterns that made her forearms tingle with anesthesia. Effect started small, with alien equipment showing minor power fluctuations that technicians initially dismissed as routine maintenance issues. But the quantum interference patterns were designed to amplify through resonance, and the fluctuations quickly escalated into serious system failures across the entire mining complex. General Tysa felt the dimensional disruption through her psychic abilities long before the technical systems registered the problems. The fabric of space-time around Earth was developing irregularities that created a sensation like mental static. She tried to contact the Empress, but found that their quantum communication systems were beginning to malfunction. Melfix Valeth was reviewing conquest reports in her Manhattan palace when the dimensional rifts began destabilizing. The crystalline spires of her residence flickered between transparency and solidity as the quantum foundations of Zephyrian technology started to unravel. Her advisors rushed to provide explanations, but none of them understood what was happening. Lisa Martinez watched through binoculars as the alien mining facility in the valley below began to malfunction. Equipment that had operated perfectly for months started sparking and smoking as quantum disruptors interfered with dimensional power sources. The effect was spreading through the alien network faster than anyone had predicted. Maya Johnson received reports from resistance cells worldwide confirming that the attack was succeeding beyond all expectations. Alien installations were failing simultaneously across the planet. As quantum interference cascaded through their interconnected systems, the network architecture that had been their strength was becoming their greatest weakness. Sami Brooks monitored the dimensional readings from her mountain laboratory and realized that they had underestimated the scope of the quantum entanglement. Connecting alien technology, the disruptors were not just affecting individual installations, but were destabilizing the entire network of dimensional rifts that powered Zephyrian operations on Earth. Kate Sullivan watched in amazement as alien aircraft began falling from the sky around Denver. The quantum interference was disrupting their propulsion systems faster than pilots could compensate. Ships that had seemed invincible were crashing into mountainsides as their dimensional power sources flickered in and out of stability. The aurora phenomenon began at exactly 12:47 GMT, when quantum disruptors in Australia created a resonance cascade that tore visible holes in the dimensional barriers. Aurora-like lights appeared in the sky over Sydney, but these were not natural atmospheric effects. They were tears in space-time itself, becoming visible to human eyes. Commander Shara attempted to evacuate her mining complex as equipment failures cascaded into structural collapses. The dimensional rifts that powered alien technology were becoming unstable in ways that Zephyrian science had never anticipated. The quantum mathematics that humans had discovered seemed to exploit fundamental flaws in their systems. General Tysa tried to use her psychic abilities to coordinate emergency responses, but found that the dimensional instability was interfering with quantum-based mental communication. The psychic static, generated by collapsing rifts, made it impossible to maintain contact with other Zephyrian commanders across the planet. The sky over New York began showing the same aurora effects that had appeared over Australia as dimensional rifts destabilized invisible spectrum wavelengths. Empress Valeth watched from her palace as reality itself seemed to crack and sparkle like broken glass. The phenomenon was beautiful and absolutely terrifying. Lisa Martinez received status reports from Maya Johnson, confirming that quantum disruption was spreading globally at the speed of light. Alien installations were failing on every continent as the resonance cascade amplified through their interconnected dimensional network. The effect was exceeding all theoretical predictions, and Brooks detected readings that made her stomach drop with terror. The dimensional rifts were not just destabilizing, they were beginning to tear holes in the fundamental structure of space-time. The quantum disruption was working too well and might continue escalating until it consumed the entire solar system. Maya Johnson coordinated emergency communications as resistance fighters reported that alien forces were beginning to panic. Zephyrian troops were abandoning their posts and retreating toward their ships as equipment failures made their positions untenable. The organized occupation was collapsing into chaosgate. Sullivan watched alien aircraft attempting desperate escapes from Earth orbit, but many of their ships were trapped by the same dimensional instability that was destroying their ground installations. Vessels that tried to engage faster than light travel were torn apart by quantum interference that made dimensional navigation impossible. Commander Shara made the decision to abandon Colorado mining operations as the facility became uninhabitable. Equipment explosions and dimensional rifts were making the area too dangerous for any life form. The quantum disruption had turned their own technology into a weapon against them. General Tysa attempted to establish psychic contact with the Empress but found that dimensional interference was making all forms of quantum communication impossible. The Zephyrian command structure was fragmenting as leaders lost contact with their subordinates, and coherent military response became impossible. Empress Valith realized that the situation on Earth was beyond recovery when her palace sensors detected dimensional tears opening in the planet's upper atmosphere. The quantum disruption was spreading into space and threatening to damage Zephyrian installations throughout the solar system. Retreat was the only option. The aurora effects intensified throughout the day as more dimensional rifts became unstable. The sky over Earth began to look like cracked glass, with rainbow fractures spreading across the atmosphere. The visual effect was magnificent, but represented catastrophic damage to the fundamental structure of reality. Lisa Martinez watched alien ships launching desperately from Earth orbit as the Zephyrian Empire began a complete evacuation. Many vessels were destroyed by dimensional instability as they attempted to flee, but the survivors transmitted emergency signals that could be detected throughout the galaxy. Earth had become too dangerous for continued occupation. Maya Johnson decoded alien emergency transmissions revealing that the quantum disruption was spreading toward Zephyrian core worlds through their dimensional communication networks. The Empire faced a choice between continuing the Earth occupation and risking the destruction of their entire civilization. The decision was obvious. Sami Brooks monitored the dimensional readings as the quantum cascade reached its peak. The rifts were beginning to stabilize at a new equilibrium, but the damage to alien technology was irreversible. Earth had become a dead zone for dimensional manipulation, and Zephyrian equipment would never function properly in this space again. The sky broke over Earth as humanity's desperate gamble succeeded. Beyond all expectations, the quantum disruptors had not just disrupted alien technology, they had made the planet uninhabitable for any civilization that depended on dimensional manipulation. The Zephyrian Empire was forced to retreat or face total annihilation. As night fell, the aurora effects began to fade, but the fundamental change to Earth's quantum environment was permanent. The planet that had been conquered was now free, but at a cost that would reshape human understanding of physics. The sky had broken, and in breaking had saved them all. 10 months after the invasion, Empress Valith stood in the ruins of her Manhattan palace, watching her empire crumble around her. The dimensional rifts that had powered Zephyrian civilization for millennia were collapsing in cascading failures that spread through quantum space like a virus. The humans had not just resisted conquest, they had weaponized reality itself. The evacuation of Earth became a panicked retreat as more Zephyrian ships were destroyed by dimensional instability. Commander Shara abandoned her mining operations and fled toward orbit, only to find that many vessels could not achieve faster than light travel. The quantum disruption had made dimensional navigation impossible throughout the solar system. Lisa Martinez watched from her mountain command posts as alien ships exploded in spectacular displays of uncontrolled energy. The dimensional rifts that powered their technology were tearing the vessels apart from within. Zephyrian engineering had never encountered anything like human quantum disruption, and their ships were not designed to handle such fundamental system failures. Maya Johnson intercepted desperate alien communications, revealing the scope of the catastrophe. The dimensional cascade was spreading through Zephyrian space faster than their ships could retreat. Entire fleet groups were being consumed by quantum instability as the fundamental technology that built their empire turned against them. Mamie Brooks monitored the dimensional readings and realized that humanity had accidentally discovered the most devastating weapon in galactic history. The quantum disruptors had not just freed Earth, they had created a form of technological plague that could destroy any civilization dependent on dimensional manipulation. The implications were staggering. Kate Sullivan helped coordinate the stabilization efforts as human scientists worked to contain the dimensional damage. The quantum cascade was beginning to slow, but the permanent changes to Earth's space-time environment meant that advanced alien technology would never function properly in this region of space. Again, General Tysa attempted to maintain psychic contact with Zephyrian forces, but found that the dimensional interference made quantum-based communication impossible. The command structure that had conquered 47 worlds was fragmenting as leaders lost contact with their fleets and armies. The Empire was dissolving in real time. Commander Shara reached orbit to find chaos among the evacuation fleet's ships that attempted interdimensional jumps were torn apart by quantum interference, while vessels that remained in normal space found their weapons and shields failing as dimensional power sources became unstable. The retreat was becoming a route. Tempress Valith received reports from across Zephyrian space confirming her worst fears. The dimensional cascade was spreading to their core worlds through quantum communication networks. Systems that had operated for thousands of years were failing as the instability propagated through the Empire's technological infrastructure. Lisa Martinez coordinated with resistance cells to document the alien retreat for historical records. Human fighters watched in amazement as the seemingly invincible Zephyrian Empire fled in panic, leaving behind equipment and installations that had once seemed indestructible. The conquerors had become refugees. Maya Johnson established contact with alien survivor groups who were trapped on Earth by the dimensional disruption. Many Zephyrian personnel found themselves stranded when their ships became inoperable. The 17-year-old began organizing humanitarian aid for the former occupiers who were now as helpless as their former prisoners. Amy Brooks made a disturbing discovery while analyzing the dimensional cascade patterns. The quantum disruption was not random, but was following the same network pathways that connected Zephyrian technology. If the effect reached their homeworld, it could trigger a civilization-ending catastrophe that would make the Earth invasion seem trivial. Kate Sullivan worked frantically to design quantum dampening fields that could slow the cascade propagation. The dimensional disruption that had saved Earth was threatening to destroy entire sectors of the galaxy. Humanity had a responsibility to help contain the monster. They had accidentally created. General Tysa found herself cut off from all psychic contact with her people as dimensional interference made quantum-based mental communication impossible. She was alone on an alien world, surrounded by the very humans she had once considered primitive animals. The reversal of fortune was complete and humiliating. Shara made the difficult decision to surrender her remaining forces to human authorities. Her ships were inoperable, her weapons were failing, and her troops were dying from dimensional radiation exposure. The four-armed alien, who had once supervised human slave labor, was now begging for human mercy. Empress Valith received her final communication from Zephyrian High Command before quantum interference severed all long-range contact. The Empire was ordering complete withdrawal from the affected sectors and implementing emergency containment protocols. To prevent further cascade propagation, Earth had become a galactic exclusion zone. Elisa Martinez was elected as Earth's first planetary defense coordinator by unanimous vote of the survivor communities. Her military experience and leadership during the resistance made her the obvious choice to guide humanity through the post-invasion rebuilding process. The woman who had refused to surrender was now responsible for an entire world. Maya Johnson became head of the new Interstellar Communication Division, tasked with monitoring galactic radio traffic and establishing diplomatic contact with other civilizations. The teenager who had predicted the invasion was now humanity's voice to the stars. Her technical skills would help Earth navigate its new role in galactic politics. Sammy Brooks led the Xenotechnology Research Division, studying abandoned alien equipment and developing new human technologies based on dimensional science. The physicist who had discovered how to disrupt alien power sources was now responsible for building Earth's technological future while avoiding the mistakes that had doomed the Zephyrian Empire. Kate Sullivan designed Earth's new defensive systems, using hybrid human-alien technology that could operate in the quantum-disrupted environment. The engineer who had built the first disruptors was now creating shields that would protect humanity from future invasion attempts while helping them explore the galaxy safely. 1 year after the invasion, Earth had become something unprecedented in galactic history. A world that had been conquered and marked for destruction had not only freed itself, but had accidentally become one of the most dangerous locations in known space. The quantum disruption field made Earth uninhabitable for most advanced civilizations. Sempris Valath lived in exile on a distant world, receiving reports about the ongoing dimensional cascade. The quantum disruption continued to spread through former Zephyrian space, consuming their technology and forcing entire populations to flee their homeworlds. The empire that had lasted for millennia was dissolving. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating primitive civilizations. Humanity's desperate gamble had not just saved Earth, but had fundamentally changed the balance of power among spacefaring races. Advanced technology was no longer a guarantee of victory against species willing to risk everything. Lisa Martinez stood in the rebuilt command center of the former alien palace and watched as new signals appeared on the long-range sensors. Other civilizations were approaching Earth, but these were diplomatic missions rather than invasion fleets. Word had spread throughout the galaxy about the world that broke the sky to win its freedom. Maya Johnson decoded the incoming transmissions and found requests for diplomatic contact rather than demands for surrender. Alien civilizations that had once ignored primitive humanity were now approaching with caution and respect. Earth had earned its place at the galactic table through the most extreme means possible. Amy Brooks continued her research into dimensional science, knowing that humanity needed to understand the forces they had unleashed. The quantum disruption that had saved Earth was still spreading through space and might eventually threaten civilizations that had nothing to do with the original invasion. Human responsibility extended beyond their own world. Kate Sullivan completed the first human-built starship designed to operate in quantum-disrupted space. The vessel used hybrid technology that combined human engineering with salvaged alien systems. The ship represented humanity's first step toward becoming a true interstellar civilization rather than just another conquered world. The story of Earth's liberation spread throughout the galaxy. Carried by refugees from the dimensional cascade, humanity became known as the species that had weaponized physics itself to achieve victory against impossible odds. The reputation was terrifying and inspiring in equal measure. Commander Shara worked as a technical advisor, helping humans understand Zephyrian technology while serving a form of community service for her role in the occupation. The former mining supervisor found herself teaching human engineers about dimensional science while trying to find meaning in her reduced circumstances. General Tysa established a school for psychic communication, techniques that could function in quantum-disrupted environments. Her abilities had been damaged by dimensional interference, but she retained enough skill to help humans develop their own mental communication capabilities. The former oppressor became an unlikely teacher. Earth's transformation from conquered world to galactic power happened within a single year. The planet that had been marked for strip mining and population relocation became a destination for diplomatic missions and scientific research. The quantum disruption field that surrounded Earth made it one of the most unique locations in known space. The Zephyrian Empire never recovered from the dimensional cascade. Their civilization collapsed as quantum disruption spread through their core worlds, forcing billions of refugees to seek new homes in less advanced regions of space. The conquerors had become the conquered by their own former victims. Humanity emerged from the invasion as a traumatized but victorious species. The cost in human lives had been enormous, but the survivors had gained knowledge and technology that would shape their future for generations. Earth was free, and humanity had earned its place among the stars through courage, determination, and willingness to risk everything. The sky above Earth still showed faint aurora effects where dimensional rifts had been torn and hastily repaired. The beautiful lights served as a permanent reminder of the day humanity chose to break reality rather than accept defeat. The aurora would fade over centuries, but the memory would last forever. Lisa Martinez concluded her first address to the United Earth Assembly with words that would be remembered throughout human history. We were invaded by an empire that thought we were primitive animals, they learned. Too late that the most dangerous animal is the one with nothing left to lose. Earth was free, the sky was healing, and humanity looked toward the stars with new understanding. They had survived their first contact with galactic civilization and earned respect through the most desperate means possible. The species that had once been marked for extinction was now ready to explore the galaxy as equals.